Well, good morning, everybody. This is Billy Trout with the Tennessee Department of Revenue's Taxpayer Services Education section. And on behalf of our Commissioner, David Giargino, and our good folks back in Taxpayer Services, we'd like to welcome you to today's presentation regarding third-party access for TNTAP. With me today, I have two wonderful ladies. I have Miss Elena Turner, who is our Director of Taxpayer Services. Good morning, Elena.
Good
And
morning.
good morning. Yes, and we also have the fabulous Katie Julian, who will be stepping through the presentation with us today. Joining us online here to help with some live questions today is our Assistant Director of Taxpayer Services, Dan Benson, and our training specialist, Miss Stephanie Bailey. So we appreciate everybody's attendance today. And if you're viewing this on recording, of course, we're glad to have you with us in that capacity as well. So with that, I'll go ahead and turn this over to Katie and let her begin walking you through a few things, and then we'll talk through some things as we go through the presentation. Thank you, Katie.
Thanks, Billy, and welcome to you all for this, what we're calling a special edition of our monthly tax webinar. Usually we have one free tax webinar a month. It's on the last Tuesday of the month. Typically it's on this month it's on January 31st on the agricultural exemptions. Lots of changes to that, but we decided to offer this kind of bonus webinar aiming mainly towards accountants, CPAs, any third parties. We had a request that there was the need for more information about this topic, so we're happy to bring this to you. Just a few housekeeping things. If you've got any questions, put them in the chat. We've got some people here to help us answer questions in the chat, and we will also be having a little session at the end to maybe address any of your questions that you might have. I just realized I forgot to shut my dog out of the room and do that real quick. Hang on just a second, because there will be a delivery and he would bark. So sorry about that. All right, so also there's a link in the chat that I put in a few minutes ago to some materials for this event. If you're viewing the recording, you can also still access the PDF for this within the link in our webinar video library. You can see a link on the screen right now on the slide to the webinar video library. And if there are any questions that we don't get around to answering today, the email that you see right here, and we'll give it to you again towards the end of the presentation, revenue.support@tn.gov. They're on the bottom of the slide. Any questions that you have for us anytime, you can send to us at that email. So we'll go ahead and proceed here to our presentation about third-party access to TNTAP. We are going to be going over today types of TNTAP access, access types and levels. We are going to be talking about managing your access, navigating client accounts, and we'll share some resources and go over a few frequently asked questions as well. So first off here, we're going to talk a little bit about TNTAP. Most of you that are in here, I know we've got a pretty small group, you're probably aware of what TNTAP is. It is the Tennessee Taxpayer Access Point. It gives access to Tennessee tax accounts to perform a variety of tasks, which include, you can see the list here, plus many, many more tasks. You can register, you can file, you can schedule payments. The system automatically corrects errors. It doesn't let you move forward if you've got an error on your return. You can amend returns. You can view previous returns, view your certificates, letters, manage your accounts, manage access, your addresses, much, much more. TNTAP was when we got a new system, a new taxpayer database about 5 years ago, we rolled it out. It came along with an online access for taxpayers, and it is really a great product. Over the past 5 years, there have been several versions and updates. It gets better and better with each update that we have. And the last update that we had, it was about a year and a half ago, version 12, it came with some pretty significant changes to access types. So we're happy to give you some information, share some information about that with you. Just one more quick note for you. If you are following along with the PDF of this, the hyperlinks on the PDF are live, or if you access it later, you can click on any of the hyperlinks that we have in the presentation directly from the PDF. You can't from the screen that you're viewing right now, though. All right, first we're going to talk about access types. There are 5 different access types. First is the master access. There are no restrictions to this access type with TNTAP. Basically, if you are the master account holder, this is reserved for the account owner, so the taxpayer who owns the business. If you are a third party that has master level access type to one of your client accounts, we are going to talk a little bit later about how to fix that. But it is reserved for the account owners. You can access all the TNTAP features that we just discussed on the previous slide, and there can only be one master logon per entity. The first person that's going to log into TNTAP as the account owner of any tax account, as for an entity, is going to be the master account owner. Another TNTAP access type is the administrator access type. Same permissions as the master, but only for accounts that are assigned to them. Account manager, similar, same permissions as administrator, but cannot manage logons. There is a view-only access type where no account changes can be made. And then, of course, what we're going to be focusing on today is third-party access, reserved for those third parties who work for taxpayers, for your clients, and they can view only what can view and perform functions according to what the taxpayer or the master account type allows them. Access levels, different than access types. So levels are what can you do? They dictate the actions that you can perform for each individual client account. They are file returns and make payments, or view only. And by default, when you set up third-party access, you'll be granted the ability to file returns and make payments. So what can you do as a third party? I won't go through each one of these line items here, but just in a nutshell, these are some common functions that third parties do perform. Searching for payments. You can see on the right side of the grid there, action steps on how to get to that place to do that and perform that function. Request refunds on behalf of your customer. Penalty waivers, changing primary and or mailing address, adding a Secretary of State control number, applying for or renewing F&E exemptions, obtaining tax clearance, closing accounts, closing locations, and changing the legal name. What can you not do? This is more of a kind of targeted list here that is still very important for you as a third party to understand. You cannot apply for a payment plan, which we also refer to as an IPP. That has to be done from the master account only. Of course, we have great tutorials on all of these functions on our website, and we'll show you later how to get over to the tutorials on how to perform all these functions. So if you have a client that needs to perform one of these functions that you can't do, there are ways you can walk them through how to do it, or of course, as always, you can send them to us for help with revenue help or our support team to help them through step-by-step instructions on how to do all of these things. Requesting a change of filing frequency, that's going to be relevant to sales tax only, but that's something that can only be done by the master account owner. Changing a location address, that's kind of a tricky thing. We're going to talk a little bit more about that later. Sometimes that involves actually closing out an account and registering for a new one, which that's something that you can do as a third party, but just changing a location. Let's say the situs is not changing at all. They're just moving next door. They're not going to be moving to a different jurisdiction. That's something that only a master account holder can do. Changing the doing business as name is something only the master account can do. Submitting a power of attorney, account number search while being logged in, and then completing and submitting bond forms is something that only the master account level holder can do. All right, now we're going to talk about how to gain third-party access. I think this is one of the biggest questions that we have. I spoke with one of our call center managers and said, what are the main questions that we get? And we'll talk more about some frequently asked questions a little bit later, but he said this is the biggest thing that CPAs and accountants call us about is how do we get third-party access? How do we gain access to our clients' accounts? So the first thing you need to do is create your own TNTAP account as you, the third party, using your credentials as an individual or a company. You want to ensure that you do not attempt to add access to customers' account by signing in as them. that would create you, that would result in you being the master account holder for that company, which we already talked about is not a good thing. So if your company has Tennessee tax accounts, or there's already a TNTAP logon for your company, consider speaking with the person who has that master logon about creating what we call a secondary logon for you under that main login for your company. And we'll talk in a minute about secondary logons. So after you are in that first step, you've gotten into your own TNTAP account. No tax accounts or tax accounts, regardless of that, you've got your own TNTAP logon as you. Then you will gain access to the client's account. And we have a link here to step-by-step instructions on exactly how you will gain access to your client's account. Basically, in a nutshell, though, once you're into TNTAP, you're going to click on the More tab and then Manage Accounts. And then there's a button right there that says Gain Access to an Account. And again, we have a specific revenue help article that you can link to right there that will detail what I'm about to tell you about the information that you're going to need next. So here's what the screen looks like after you click on Gain Access to a client's account. The first question is going to say, does this tax account belong to you? It does not. If you are a third party, you are saying that the account that you're trying to get into belongs to someone else. Very important that you click that. You're going to need your client's ID type, their ID, so that's whether or not their business is registered using a FEIN, a social security number, or an ITIN. You'll need that. You'll confirm that. You will check the little box that says that you are certifying that you're an authorized representative of your client. And then you're going to choose one at a time the account type, the account ID. You'll need the zip code for the business, that is their primary address zip code. And then you'll need to verify the account. The most common way to do this is by entering a letter ID. So after you submit all of this information, the account owner will receive a letter that you've requested access. But at this point, when you've submitted all of this information, you will get immediate access to the account. So a few items go back here, a few items that you may need to gather that if you don't have handy, that you'll need to complete this step right here. The next slide is going to walk through a couple ways that you can get this information. So of course, Tennessee Department of Revenue, we cannot provide you with the FEIN or social or ITIN for your client. That's information that you will definitely need. But let's say you don't know what their tax account number is. You see in the blue box on the bottom of this slide, you can, well, along with the letter ID, which is something you'll need, and their account number, this will be in correspondence that we have sent to your client via a letter. If they have that, great. If not, you can also contact us. But there's a really cool tool that we have on our TNTAP site. So when you go to tn.gov/revenue and click on TNTAP, there is a link there that says information and inquiries. And when you click view options, one of the options you'll see there is a tax account number search. So if you know the account type, let's say you're trying to gain access to their business tax account. The first item there that's required is that you're going to have to choose the account type. So you're going to choose business tax in this example. And then their ID type, is it a social, is it a FEIN? You'll choose that. And then you'll put in their entity ID number and certify that you're authorized. So the account type, their entity ID type and number, and then you can actually get their tax account number that way. So there's another piece to that pie of when you're gaining access right here, this middle section, you're going to need that account number, account ID. That's a way you can get that if your taxpayer doesn't have it or lost their letter from us. The letter ID, again, they have received correspondence with us, so you can check with your client. But if not, if you contact us, Revenue Support, and you have your client's entity ID number, their account number, at that point, and if you certify that you are an authorized representative of the business, at that point, we can help you out and work with you and give you that letter ID that you'll need to be able to get into their account. So lots of information needed first before that point, but we're here to help you help your clients for sure. Okay, now we're going to talk. I mentioned secondary logons earlier. We're going to talk about what that is. Secondary logons. So if you've got people in your office that maybe you've got an assistant or a whole team that works on just certain tax types for you, you can actually assign those people a secondary logon to your client's account. The way you get to it within TNTAP, once you're logged into TNTAP, you'll click on Manage My Profile, then More, then My Users, and then click on Manage Secondary Logons. You can see a little screenshot of what that looks like there. So these people, the secondary logons, can perform work on your behalf. They only have access to your customers and your accounts. When you lose access, they lose access. You will gain access to any account the secondary logon gains access to as well. And you can manage secondary logons there. Not only can you create secondary logons, but also then manage which accounts those secondary logons can view and access. Once you're into manage secondary logins, another really cool feature in TNTAP is you can create something called security groups. In order to categorize your clients and manage which groups they have access to. So let's say you have clients just in certain industries like restaurants, convenience stores, hotels, etc. Or you have clients just located in certain regions where you have employees that you work with that only handle your clients that are in East Tennessee or in West Tennessee. You can create the security group and then assign your secondary logons to just those clients that belong to the security groups. And again, your instructions on how to get there and what it looks like. There's a default security group. So if you never even touched that tab within TNTAP and didn't want to mess with it, everybody's assigned to the same one. It's a default. Now we are going to talk a little bit about managing your customers in TNTAP. What we're looking at here is what it's going to look like as soon as you log in to TNTAP. If you've got multiple client accounts, you're going to see right here, we've got customer 1, customer 2, customer 3, 13 pages in this example here of clients. That would be a good problem to have, right? You can see along the top tab there's all. That's going to show all of your clients. You can filter there with who do you want to work with. Type in even a couple letters will filter it down. You can opt to choose favorites, clients that you work with quite a bit. You can see there out beside customer 1 to the right, it says add to favorites, just like bookmarking something in your browser. You just click that little star, and anyone who you click as a star, it'll show up in your favorites tab. The recent tab there, that's recent stuff, recent access that you've had to client accounts. Action Center, really important. This particular third party who obviously has a lot of clients, 13 pages of clients, has a lot of actions too. Action Center will take you over to letters that need to be read, payments that need to be made, returns that need to be filed, so on and so forth. One thing that's really cool feature in the Action Center is that you can filter by certain types of accounts and by certain actions. You can see here a screenshot of filtering by just all the business tax accounts that you do. Here coming up in a couple months, it's going to be between now and April 15th. Actually, is it the 15th this year? I can't remember if that falls. I think that may fall on a holiday or weekend. But
It's the 18th.
okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah,
Need to put that
few
in my
extra
brain.
days this
Oh,
year. Yeah.
yay. Okay. So yeah, between now and April 18th, you'll be probably accessing a lot of business tax return. If you're a third party, you could filter out just all your business tax accounts. You can see you can also filter by actions. If there's any of your clients who have balances to pay, letters that need to be read, so on and so forth, returns that are overdue or that need to be filed, you can filter by that as well. Let's see here. Okay, going to share some resources here. I'm actually going to go on a little field trip and take you over to our website to show you what I'm talking about here. But the best resource we have, other than just clicking around in TNTAP and seeing everything you can do in there, we have revenue help articles. And let's see here, go over to my web browser. All right, I'm on our revenue homepage now, which is tn.gov/revenue. You can see here is the link to get over to TNTAP. on one of those first few slides, I have a link directly into TNTAP. If you don't already have it, you can save the direct TNTAP homepage as a bookmark, of course. But where I'm going to go right now is I'm going to take you over to Revenue Help, the tile that says Questions. These are our help articles on all topics Department of Revenue, but we're going to zero in here for a minute on Tennessee Taxpayer Access Point, or TNTAP. And just to show you, there are several subheadings here: general how-to videos, general about TNTAP info, information about creating a login and about the login process, registering on TNTAP, making payments, actual tax returns and the filing of returns, and then there's a section on licensed distributor reports. Each one of these subheadings has a number of articles. You can expand each one here. You can see there's 20 articles about TNTAP login. There are 11 articles about the registration process, 13 articles about tax returns. I want to just implore you to go into Revenue Help and see what all options there are within Revenue Help and the articles that we have. Again, they can help you to help your clients with some of the functions that only they can perform, or whether they need to just set up a TNTAP account. You can tell them, hey, you need to set up master TNTAP access for your new business. There's a great website that they've got that Revenue has. Send them our way. Send them to this page right here for very easy to understand instructions about how they can get set up. One other place I'm going to take you to real quick before we go back over to the presentation, I'm going to take you over to TNTAP just to show you a few things. If you haven't ever explored this area, you may just be used to, maybe you created your logon and are just used to coming in here and logging in, but there's some really cool features that you see before you even log in. There are ways to make a non-log-on payment just very quickly if you've got your account information and know what return period you're filing for. Very easy to do that right there without even logging in. Certain returns here, you can file that $100 minimum F&E return. We always recommend, if you're just filing a minimum F&E, it is very easy to do it this way rather than going through the regular return process. Registration and exemption, and a lot of these functions you can do from within TNTAP once you're logged into your TNTAP account. But again, these are just non-log-on processes here. Quick, obtain franchise excise tax clearance. Maybe if you need that, maybe it's quicker just to go straight here rather than logging in and then all the clicks that you've got to go to after that. We're all about less clicks, right? Information and inquiries. That was where I was showing you earlier about how to get account information. You can request refunds here, look up professional privilege tax info, but down here at the bottom, look up tax account numbers. That was the information I was showing you earlier if you're needing that for when you're gaining access to one of your client accounts. So just some really cool features within TNTAP before you log in. And let me go back over to, okay, back into our presentation. Now, just before we stop and go through some of your questions that you might have, we're going to discuss a few frequently asked questions on TNTAP third-party access. I mentioned this earlier. Let's say you accidentally created logon as the taxpayer, with master access instead of third-party access. How do you fix this? Once you're logged in, again, in this case, as you're going to be logged in as your client, as with master level access, you're going to go to Manage My Profile, then click on More, and then Access Management. You can see here, it's very clear, the third option down is Delete My Profile. That is the first step. If you are a third party and you have master level access, log in through that master level access to that client, to that tax account, delete the profile. And then if you don't already have your own login, you'll create that. If you do, you'll log in to your TNTAP account as yourself, and then follow the guidance that we went over before on gaining third-party access. Simple as that. Delete the wrong one, and then go in and gain access the right way as third party. Next question we have, how do I delete a client I no longer need access to? Your client can do this on there, and they can manage access and delete any third parties, delete any logons that have access to their account. But if you need to do this, you will get into your TNTAP account. So you've got to be logged in, and then click on Manage My Profile, then More, and then Access Management. Once you do that, you're going to see your client. You can see here this customer one with a EIN ending in 1234. You're going to see here which tax accounts you have access to for this client. And for each one, you're going to click on the link. It's a blue hyperlink that shows that you have third-party access. You're going to click on that in word third party, and that's going to take you over to the settings that you have for that account, and simple as just click cancel my access. All right, we've got one more frequently asked question here. How do I register a new account or location for a client? Very common here. Once you're in TNTAP, you're going to click on More and then Manage Accounts. And then the second option down, once you see Manage Accounts, is Register New Client Account or Location. A third party, as we mentioned before, cannot change the address of a currently registered location. The account owner can perform this function, as I mentioned, if that location is within the same situs or same jurisdiction, same city and county as their current location is. But if not, the steps are, we're going to consider it a new location, if it's in a different situs, the account owner or you as a third party can close the current location and then register for a new one this way. So the first step would be to close the current location. We don't have instructions right here at this time on closing a location, but we've got a great revenue help article about it. It's a very simple 3 clicks to close a location. So if they are opening a new location, that if they're closing one, moving actually, if they're moving, that's the steps you would take to do that. All right, so that concludes the presentation part of uh, TNTAP third-party access. We'll stop on this slide for just a minute and then leave this up while Billy comes back and tells us about what's been going on over in chat. If there's been any questions that we need to discuss, but
Okay.
I'll leave it here
Uh,
for now.
excuse me, I have late breaking news. There's nothing going on in chat. You
All
have
right,
must have done such an excellent job that no one has any questions at all. So
that must be
phenomenal
it.
job by you. We might ask Elena to pop on here and see if she has any other comments that she wants to give us as our director. Hello there, Miss Elena.
Hello. I do not. If there aren't any questions other than please feel free to reach out to us. I know a lot of people are nervous and we are here to help, especially if you want to understand how to do the groups and setting up the different, you can put your whole staff into different categories so that they're only seeing the taxpayers regarding that category. For example, we have a CPA who we did hotels versus restaurants versus trades. So we're happy to give you any information or assistance with that.
Thank you, Elena. A couple of things I was thinking of while Katie was doing the presentation is number one, how important it is to make sure to gather client information ahead of time. So as you get a new client, it's always challenging when you get somebody new on board. You got to find out what they've done, what they haven't done, in the tax years past and things of that nature, copies of prior returns, and the routine. But essentially, part of this, why don't you make that? Hey, do you have your Tennessee state account numbers yet? Do you have a letter ID for me that I can use to gain access to your account as a third party? Those are a big thing, especially the account ID. And I think Elena and Katie will both echo the whole idea, especially with franchise and excise taxes. Clients a lot of times just don't get their account numbers ahead of time. They don't register and get the account numbers on file. So obviously, even if you're filing through software, what we call MEF filing, we need you to have that Tennessee account number so that we get a proper record of the tax return and the payments. Super critical super critical to do this stuff early. And a shout out to a lot of our CPAs and tax accountants out there that have already been asking us on for franchise and excise for 2022. What's the amount of the estimated payments? What's the amount of the carry forward? Stuff like that. Hey, we'd much rather answer your question here as we're recording this today in January of 23 as opposed to April the 18th or or the extended due date or whenever that is, whenever we're on fire. So help us help you. Let us go ahead and get you that information up front, get you that TNTAP access, and that sort of thing too. But gathering this data up front is super critical. Okay.
One thing, Billy, I want to say on the subject of F&E, I know a lot of times accountants and CPAs, third parties, don't have access to their clients' F&E accounts. Maybe they just always do the modernized e-file and send it to us that way. We really highly recommend that you get access to the actual F&E account, even if you're e-filing through MEF,
Mhm.
because if let's say we made an adjustment, there was something on a return that we had to make an adjustment on, and we sent a letter to the taxpayer, to your client, saying, hey, there was this return adjustment, FYI. Maybe your client didn't share that with you and you have no idea. You could be continuing to file year after year with a certain carry forward that's not even there or it's different than what you think it is.
Mhm.
So definitely gain access to F&E accounts if you handle F&E for any of your
Yeah.
clients.
And along those same lines too, Katie, another thing that's sort of really it seems so obvious to people like us, but maybe not to business people who are so busy with so many different things that they do. Um, the obverse of that, Katie, where you've got taxpayers who are business owners that have access to their sales tax because they go ahead and do their sales tax. A lot of times, the business owner will do their own sales tax. They might even do their own business tax, maybe. Okay, but they don't do that F&E. They don't do that. That's up to our CPAs, accountants, et cetera, to do that for them. And that's the approach they take. So they don't ever get access to that franchise and excise account on TNTAP. So they also need access to all their accounts. So they should add that access when they're online as well, or reach out to us so we can get them that access. And the reason for that is quite simple. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I do online banking. I think most people do these days. How would you like to go to online banking and only see access to your checking account and not your savings account? That doesn't make any sense at all. So clearly, in my opinion, you'd want access to every one of your accounts. So if you don't have that, you really should get that. And we do spend a lot of time trying to educate our taxpayers. Hey, if you don't have access, here's what you do. Super easy way to go online and get that taken care of very quickly. That's that sort of stuff. So that's my little commercial there for gaining proper access there.
I think that what's gone on over the past few years, Billy, too, I mean, we are 5 years into this new system with TNTAP and with our new tax system. But when COVID hit, everyone had to go to do everything online, right? You used to maybe could go into our offices, which are slowly opening back up now, but for a couple years there, you didn't have an option and had to go online. And we have, again, being 5 years in now, I think people are getting the hang of this 10 tap thing. Hopefully, you as third parties are as well. Um, it will only continue to improve. There will continue to be updates and new versions that increase the functionality and make it better and better. But I think we have most accounts have 10 tap access to them, either by master level or third parties. And like Billy said, you as third parties, and please encourage your clients to get master level access to all their accounts. We're trying to increase that as the days go on, for sure.
Right.
There's a
And
question in chat. Oh, sorry, Billy, what?
oh no, you go ahead. Go ahead, Katie. You're
There's
good.
a question that I'm not sure of the answer to be honest with you, and I can't get into my staging environment right at the moment. But a question from Brad who says, is there a way to view tax payments made on an F&E filing that apply to a specific year? So, for example, can you go in and search payments and see where a particular payment has been applied? That I know you can find payments. I know there's a way to search for payments, and we have instructions. There's a whole revenue help article on how to find payments. But Elaine, I see you popping in here. Do you know if they can see on TNTAP where it's been, which period it's been applied to?
No, I don't believe you can.
Okay,
I will double check, and if we can get Brad's info, I'll shoot him an email. We can see the payments made, but I assume he's asking it may have offset another period. And if that's the case, I don't believe
right.
you'll just see
That
that
might
there's
be
a
a call
credit, but
to
it may
us.
not. Yeah, it doesn't
Yeah.
show that like, oh, this was brought from this payment was made in 2020 and it offset your 2023 period. You're not going to necessarily see where you made the payment, then it applied. So if there's something specific that he's needing, please let me know, and we're happy to look into that and give him that information.
Yeah, I agree with Elena on that too. We do get a lot of requests. Well, I won't say a lot, but a fair number of requests, particularly on F&E about, hey, this payment, where did it go? What happened? Because sometimes taxpayers and one of the sort of like TNTAP 101 things about payments is, hey, make sure that you're selecting what type of payment that you want to make. Do you want to make a period payment? That's our favorite one. That will lock that sucker down to that tax return and period. Okay. But you can make an actual tax return payment among any sort of return that's out there, like for any period on sales tax, apply to the oldest period. And you can make a customer level payment and stuff like that. So those are a little more nebulous. So it's sort of like chasing it through the system. Yeah, we can do it. We can find it for you. We'll tell you where it posted and where it was applied to. But the best payment to make, in my opinion, is a period payment
As
because
specific
it's
as possible.
exactly
Right.
what
Well,
you're trying to pay, in my opinion.
correct. But if there is a period payment and it's an overpayment, then the system, which is a great thing, is that the system will offset that for you. So if you're under, maybe you accidentally underpay your tax on the next period, the system will apply that for
Mhm,
you.
mhm.
The hardest part with F&E, if that is what Brad is talking about, is there's two different. So you have an overpayment, and you also have your credit locks. So those are not available to see at all. So that's when you need to reach out to us, and we are working on possible ways to get that information to you. But please, with any of the instances, please reach out, and we're happy to track that and let you know where it all went.
Yeah, so echoing that too, you see our phone number here too. By the way, if it's franchise and excise, the phone number, I think most of you know this, but it's 615-253-0700 is the phone number for that. And make sure to call our franchise and excise experts and get us give us a email anytime you want to. We're here all during every business day, ready to help you in any way we can, either by phone or by email too. And hopefully, like Katie has shown you, lots of different tools to be able to find your own answers out there if you're burning the midnight oil or something like that. We have a lot of information out online.
Props to Billy for using a word of the day, nebulous. That's
Nebulous
SAP
is the
word.
big,
That's a
it's your
10-point word.
big good scramble word, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I don't see any other questions right now in the chat. So with that, one thing I want to encourage you all to do is to follow us on social media. We post important notices on social media, lots of great information to any changes. We have reminders about upcoming deadlines and such. So make sure you do that. One big exciting piece of information we want to share with you is that starting with this very webinar, we will now be offering CPE credits for our tax webinars. Coming soon, you'll be able to fill out a form online to be able to request credit for webinars you've attended and or viewed online. But for right now, when you registered for this webinar, it asked you a question of do you want CPE credit? You answered yes or no. If you answered yes to that, again, this is our first time to do this, so in the next few days we'll be emailing out the certificates for CPE credits for you, and we're really excited to be able to offer that. People have been asking for a while. We hope and we think you find these helpful, hopefully, and they're deserving of some credit for you. So we appreciate that you have requested that and that you are going to be getting it. We're happy for that. And CPE stands for Continuing Professional Education. I believe, I can't remember right off the bat exactly for these webinars, how many
Yeah.
credit hours.
Yeah, we'll have to look into that. It's whatever the prescribed
It's
methodology is for
1.2.
that.
Yeah,
One
1.2
point one
CPE
point two
credit hours.
because of the amount of time that we spend on it, right?
Right, right.
The other thing too is that we do not offer the CLE credit, which is for the legal. We currently don't offer that. We might in the future, but we're going to go ahead and start with this. So we're glad to be able to help you guys out with that.
Absolutely. Well, without any other questions in the chat, I guess we'll go ahead and wrap this up for today. Again, we've got another webinar in just 2 weeks from today on agricultural exemptions. Hope you can join us for that here in just maybe a couple hours or by the end of the day. The link to register for that webinar will be up on our taxpayer education webpage. Thank you all so much for joining us live, or if you're watching the recording of this. We appreciate you and the work that you do on behalf of your clients. And thanks to Billy and Elena for joining us, and Stephanie and Dan. Happy to have you all on here and hope you all have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you.